Tonight on Y News, President Duterte formally appoints Vice President Leni Robredo as co-chair of the Interagency Committee on Anti-Illegal Drugs. One died, another injured after truck supposed to bring water to Makilala, Cotabato evacuees lost its brakes. Former PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde seeks dismissal of charges against him in the controversial Ninja Cops operation. The DPWH targets to finish the NLEX-SLEX connector by second quarter of 2021. And a wounded NPA combatant tells his story on how a soldier saved his life. Good evening. Vice President Leni Robredo can now attend President Rodrigo Duterte's cabinet meetings and do what she wants to do as the country's drug czar. Rosalie Cos details why in this report.
President Rodrigo Duterte signed a designation letter for Vice President Leni Robredo on October 31, 2019. The letter designates the country's second top leader as the co-chairperson of the Interagency Committee on Anti-Illegal Drugs. Her designation to lead the government's campaign against illicit drugs is effective until June 30, 2022, unless sooner revoked. The President also directs the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, the Philippine National Police, the Dangerous Drugs Board, and other law enforcement agencies to extend their full assistance and cooperation to the Vice President. According to Presidential Spokesperson and Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo, the position given to VP Robredo is a cabinet rank. She can attend President Duterte's cabinet meetings starting Thursday once she accepts the designation.
Cabinet member na nga siya, lahat ng pwede niyang gawin, pwede niya nang gawin.
The palace official supposes through this development, the administration's detractors and critics would finally see the president's sincerity in making such offer to the vice president to be the drug czar. Malacanang clarifies being the drug czar, the power delegated to VP Robredo does not include the power to appoint the next PNP chief as well as new heads of PIDEA and DDB. If VP Robredo does not accept the position, this means her criticisms on the administration's anti-drug war have no basis, according to Secretary Panelo.
Tanggapin niya na yan kasi pagkakataon niya na. Kung ako siya, welcome naman siya sa cabinet, tanggapin.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV, News and Rescue, Malacanang.
In connection with that news, some senators challenged the Vice President Leni Robredo to accept her appointment as the country's drug czar. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
Some senators welcome President Rodrigo Duterte's move to appoint Vice President Leni Robredo as the co-chairperson of the Interagency Committee on Anti-Illegal Drugs. In a Twitter post, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian says he strongly suggests that VP Leni accept the drug czar challenge. He adds it will be a good opportunity for her and her team to use their alternative strategies to eliminate drugs in the country. For Senate President Vicente Sota III, VP Leni must accept the post.
Dapat tanggapin ni Vice President Leni yan para yung mga siya at saka yung mga advices niya, once they start researching and studying the issue, they will realize that hindi pwedeng itigil ang war on drugs. It is a never-ending struggle.
While Senator Christopher Bongo challenges the Vice President to experience the job of a president.
I challenge Vice President Leni to accept the job. Malay mo ma'am, kaya mo yan at nang makita mo po kung ano yung trabaho ng isang presidente, subukan mo up to the last day of your term. Term rin po ni Pangulo up to June 30 of 2022. Tingnan natin kung makakatulog ka pa.
Senators Soto and Go clarify the appointment of Vice President to the post doesn't necessarily mean the administration has failed in its war on drugs. Instead, SP Soto emphasizes this will be a realization in the side of the opposition of how big the country's problems on illegal drugs are. According to Senator Go, the former special assistant to the president, the vice president won't be forced to accept the position. What's important, he says, is that the country's second top leader has been given all opportunities. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Several members of the House of Representatives have expressed their takes on the President's appointment of Vice President Leni Robredo as co-chair for the drug war. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
With President Rodrigo Duterte appointing Vice President Leni Robredo as the co-chair for the Interagency Committee on Anti-Illegal Drugs, lawmakers expressed their ideas on the matter. Ako Bicol Party List Representative Alfredo Garbin Jr. says his party is ready to support the Vice President and provide whatever assistance she needs. Garbin adds this may serve as a step for the current administration and the opposition to reconcile. As for Anak Kalusugan Party List Representative Mike Defensor, this will give VP Robredo a full perspective on the situation of the drug war in the country and assert her stand. But for Representative Edsa Lagman of the minority, the diluted position of being a co-chair instead of being the drug czar validates the fear that the Vice President is being set up to fail. Lagman says no less than Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency Chief Aaron Aquino has predicted the Vice President will fail. As for Representative Franz Castro of ACT Teachers Party List, the President is just looking for someone to share the blame with, as it was he who promised to eradicate drugs in just 3 to 6 months. Castro says the President's drug war's failure became even more evident with the drug recycling of the Ninja Cops. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Metro Rail Transit or MRT Line 3 still has no word about the cause of the smoke emission incident that happened in one of its running trains yesterday. Meanwhile, minors or those aged 18 years and below may avail of free MR3 rides tomorrow. Find out why from Asher Kadapan Jr.
A video taken by a netizen shows smoke rising from a running MRT Line 3 train as it was approaching Santolan Station northbound in Quezon City at about 4 p.m. yesterday. More than 500 passengers immediately got off the train. No one was reported hurt in the incident. The MRT3 management resumed normal operation at about 6 yesterday evening after the train involved in the incident was removed. According to a statement from the MRT management, the train's maintenance provider, Sumitomo Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, has launched an investigation on the matter. Despite the hitch, the scheduled rail replacement pushed through from 11 last night until 4 this morning. 180 meters of long welded rail was installed southbound from Buendia to Ayala stations. Meanwhile, MRT3 will provide free rides to passengers aged 18 years and below in celebration of the 27th National Children's Month. The free rides are offered tomorrow, November 6th, from 7 to 9 a.m. and from 5 to 7 p.m. To avail of free transport, just present your school ID. For out-of-school minors, just bring any ID upon entering the MRT stations. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Department of Public Works and Highways has the construction of the NLEX-SLEX connector in full swing. The elevated expressway is part of the government's Build, Build, Build program. Though the road project has right-of-way issues, the Philippine National Railway says it won't affect the train's normal operations. Joan Lano tells us why.
Department of Public Works and Highways Secretary Mark Villar visited the construction site of NLEX-SLEX connector in Grace Park, Caloocan City today to inspect the progress of the road project. The NLEX connector is an elevated expressway that will stretch us from New Caloocan Interchange in C3 Road to España, Manila that will eventually be linked to the Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3 project in the PUP Santa Mesa area. According to the DPWH, around 35,000 motorists will benefit from the NLEX-SLEX connector every day once completed. The travel time of motorists plying NLEX to SLEX and vice versa is expected to be shortened from 2 hours to about 20 minutes, says the DPWH.
Malaking bagay po ito sa decongestion ng Metro Manila kasi lahat po ng trucks na galing sa port hindi na kailangan dumaan sa major thoroughfares ng Metro Manila. Dito na sila aakyat sa may R10 at pwede na silang dumiretso sa NLEX or SLEX. And we expect that within November, full force na po ang construction dito sa connector.
The DPWH has so far settled around 50% of the elevated expressways right-of-way issues. This includes a portion of the Philippine National Railways or PNR on C3 Road in Caloocan City. The PNR says, however, the road project won't affect their normal operations.
Ang problema namin is project staging. Ibig sabihin na staging, maraming mga crane, maraming heavy equipment na gagalaw-galaw dyan, may train na tumatakbo pa. So paplanuhin lang namin kung paano namin patakbuhin yung mga trains, paano namin patakbuhin yung mga heavy equipment.
The DPWH targets to finish the NLEX-SLEX connector by second quarter of 2021. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Caloocan City.
Five more days and a Song of Praise Music Festival will stage its 8th Grand Finals. 12 new praise song entries will be judged by a panel of music experts. One of those is a composition of a piano and guitar instructor from Bajada, Davao City, to which one of the ASAP judges gave 2 thumbs up. Nina Armilio tells us why.
Of ballad Gerald Santos, who has been an ASAP interpreter since year 1. Pupurihin Kita is different from the songs he has sung in the program. Despite the distance between the composer and the interpreter at the moment, both are preparing for the big event.
Mas sinasapuso at sinasaisip ko yung song para talagang kapag dumating yung grand finals, mas ma-deliver ko siya, yung message niya talaga sa tao, mas maiparamdam ko talaga.
Judge Moy Ortiz gave 2 thumbs up to the song. For him, Pupurihin Kita is very singable.
Grabe, bay. Singable kaayo. Singable. A praise and worship song should be. It should lift your spirits. And itong awitin mong Purihin Ka just did that.
Would the ASAP viewers say the same? Witness an evening of music for the creator on November 10, 7 p.m. at the New Frontier Theater. Join the online voting and power viewing before noon on Sunday. Just visit asaptv.com/poll and youtube.com/asaptv for more details. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up to where Angelo Castro III left off. I'm Alex Baltazar, and here are the headlines. One died, another injured after a truck supposed to bring water to evacuees lost its brake in North Cotabato. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council insists there is no humanitarian crisis in the hardest hit region of Cotabato. The country's inflation further cools in October amid sharp drop in rice prices. Former PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde seeks dismissal of charges against him in the controversial Ninja Cops operation. And Marjolin Didal wins back-to-back victories in California's skateboarding events. Good evening. An accident happens in Makilala, Cotabato amid the arrival of relief goods and donations from various entities. Meanwhile, the Makilala local government wants to prohibit donations of ready-to-eat meals, which may cause food poisoning. Janice Anienta tells us why.
A delivery truck crew member died while its driver got injured after the vehicle lost its brake and fell into a drainage in Barangay Poblacion, Makilala, Cotabato. Witnesses say the 2 victims kept on shouting so that other vehicles on the road could give way to their carrying truck. The truck came from Davao City to deliver water for Makilala residents who have evacuated due to the recent earthquake in Mindanao. The Makilala local government is saddened by the incident and extends sympathies to the bereaved family. Cheryl Orbita, the acting municipal administrator of Makilala, thanks the truck crew for their good deed to the Makilala residents. Meanwhile, 30 evacuees in barangays Malabuan and Patulangon have been rushed to the hospital after they experiencing stomach ache and diarrhea. Orbita says the food the victims ate might have come from the donations, which she says were given in good faith. The local government appeals to those who want to donate to coordinate with their command center instead of giving relief goods directly to evacuation centers. This is for them to inspect food and other items before distribution to prevent harm on the evacuees' health. Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue, Makilala, Cotabato.
Classes in all levels in public and private schools in Davao City resumed today, but one school was not allowed to use one of its buildings. Hazel Ferzas will tell us why.
Many students in Davao City returned to their schools today. But here, in one of the city's biggest public schools, authorities have not permitted the use of one of its buildings. This is based on the City Engineering Office recommendation after cracks were seen on its walls. According to the Davao City National High School Administration, they conduct earthquake drill regularly to prepare the students for earthquakes.
We have series of earthquake drills, regular itong kinakonduct, and since years ago kinakonduct na namin yung earthquake drills. That's why every time may mga lindol, aware na ang mga estudyante where to go.
The school adds there are designated evacuation areas in case a strong earthquake happens again. Hazel Ferzas, UNTV News and Rescue, Davao City.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council believes the situation in Mindanao is not considered a humanitarian crisis. Meanwhile, the agency advises donors to avoid donating food items that are about to expire. Harleen Delgado reports why.
There is no humanitarian crisis going on in Mindanao. This is the stand of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC. Contrary to Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzano's statement that the situation in earthquake-hit areas in Mindanao is a humanitarian crisis. According to NDRRMC Executive Director and Office of the Civil Defense or OCD Administrator Ricardo Halad, though the distribution remains a challenge, the agency assures the government can sustain the victims' needs and there is no need to call for international aid.
Walang underserving, lahat nabibigyan para hindi nagugutom yung mga tao. So, I don't believe may humanitarian crisis. Kung mapabayaan natin ito, hindi natin distribute efficiently, immediately yung mga relief goods, baka mauwi nga sa bakagutom yung mga tao.
Over 47,000 food packs have so far been distributed by the Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD to evacuation centers. The NDRRMC calls on donors to avoid sending foods that are about to expire. This after people in Barangay Malabuan Evacuation Center reportedly suffered from food poisoning after eating pastel from an unidentified donor. The said victims have already been treated. Halad says one of the reasons why Secretary Lorenzana ordered to set up checkpoints is to prevent the internally displaced persons to seek help in the streets. The NDRRMC advises donors who want to personally deliver their donations to coordinate with immediate command posts and the local government officials to ensure that relief items will be distributed properly.
In-encourage natin doon sa evacuation center so that there will be checking of the quality of the food. Checking the quality of medicine kung medicine yung binibigay nila.
The NDRRMC further encourages interested donors to coordinate with the agency through its official hotline to arrange the transportation of their donations. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Resigned Philippine National Police Chief Oscar Albayalde stands firm that charges he's now facing must be dismissed. Maya Bermudez will tell us why.
Former PNP Chief Director General Oscar Albayalde attended the Department of Justice or DOJ's investigation on the case involving the so-called Ninja Cops. The complaint stemmed from the anomalous drug raid in Mexico, Pampanga in 2013, in which some 648 million pesos worth of confiscated illegal drugs had been recycled. The former PNP chief faces violation of Republic Act 9165 or the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002 due to alleged misappropriation appropriation of confiscated and surrendered illegal drugs. When asked about his case, his answer was short.
Di natin alam. Let's see.
In his counter affidavit, Albayalde states that accusations against him have no basis, so it must be dismissed. He adds the DOJ has no jurisdiction to open the case. The former PNP chief is also accused of violating the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act because of allegedly asking the former chief of the Luzon Central Police and the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency Chief Aaron Aquino to not implement the dismissal order on the Ninja Cops. But after allegations have been made against him, 6 years after the Pampanga drug raid, no strong evidence has been presented to prove his liability. Meanwhile, the PNP Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, or CIDG, believes the DOJ will rule against Albayalde and the 13 Ninja Cops.
Sa tingin ko, mga 70 to 80%, I believe so, is liable. Probable cause lang naman yung nahanap natin dito.
Albayalde was not included in the first complaint, but the CADG says several changes have been made in the case.
Meron lang inad sa prayer, and that is Section 3, Paragraph 8. Yun nga yung persuasion, how the respondent persuaded the other officers.
DOJ sets the next hearing for Monday, November 11. Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The 14 policemen caught bringing cellular phones outside the New Bilibid prison will be able to return to work this week. The National Capital Region Police Office Chief says those cops will be assigned in the 2019 Southeast Asian Games. Playa Ilagan explains why.
14 of the 18 policemen caught bringing cellular phones outside the National Penitentiary last October 18 have been acquitted. NCRPO Chief Police Brigadier General Debold Sinas explains the decision was based on the result of the forensic examination conducted by the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group.
Lahat pong cellphone 14 doon, may mga interactions, may mga discussion with their family, with their friends, yan to. So, more or less, ginamit ko as personal use. Diba? Wala kami nakita irregularity doon.
Sinas adds they will only file an administrative case of less serious neglect of duty for not following specific instructions. According to the NCRPO chief, those caps will be deployed in the venues of the 2019 Southeast Asian Games or SEA Games hosted by the Philippines. Sinas confirms, however, the grave misconduct will be filed against the 4 policemen, including their senior police officials caught sneaking liquor and cigarette inside the New Bilibid prison.
Tapos na actual investigation, hinihintay na lang yung findings talaga ng crime lab na i-black and white nila.
Because of this, Sinas says he will deploy members of the Mobile Force Battalion to the NPP instead of getting PNP personnel from different NCRPO district offices. Meanwhile, Sinas is now waiting for the explanation of the 8 policemen caught sleeping while on duty from October 28 to November 2. 4 of them are from Makati, 2 from Valenzuela, and 2 others from Caloocan. Appropriate charges will be filed once they receive the cops' explanation.
Pa-explain mo muna bakit ganito. Then, bahala ang chief of police mag-sanction. Kasi kung first time naman siya, baka may reason siya.
Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Malacanang has lauded the latest drop in the country's inflation rate and vowed to continue to monitor the prices of basic commodities, especially with the approaching holiday season. Mirasola Bugadil has the details.
The country's headline inflation further eased to 0.8% in October. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA, the latest inflation figure is lower than the 0.9% recorded in September and a sharp slide compared to the 6.7% in October 2018. October's inflation rate is the country's lowest in more than 3 years, bringing the year-to-date inflation to 2.6%. National statistician Dennis Mapa says the downtrend in the latest inflation is primarily due to the annual drop in the index of the heavily weighted food and non-alcoholic beverages, as well as transportation costs. Mapa adds rice prices also maintained its year-on-year decline with a 9.7% drop for the sixth straight month, while transport expenses also settled lower compared to last year. Data from the PSA also showed that inflation was higher in Metro Manila, where prices of basic commodities increased by 1.3%. Prices in regions, meanwhile, moved slower in an average of 0.7%. Malacanang welcomed the slower inflation rate but assured it will continue to monitor the prices of basic commodities, especially during the holiday season. The National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, also welcomed the latest inflation rate, attributing it to the government's drive and focus in its anti-inflationary efforts this year. She warns, however, the country must be in the lookout for upside risks, such as cases of African swine fever, which have been observed so far in Rizal, Pangasinan, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Cavite, and Quezon City. She also urges meat processing plants to enforce more stringent biosecurity measures and expand and place quarantine checkpoints and disinfection facilities in key gateways such as seaports, airports, and expressways. Mirasol Abogadil, UNTV, News and Rescue.
Marjeline Didal continues to climb her way to the Southeast Asian Games and the Olympics after bagging two back-to-back victories in skateboarding events in California. Didal has been the champion for 2 consecutive years at the Exposure All-Women Skateboarding Championship held at Huntington Beach. She also dominated at the best trick in the 11th annual Ladies' Day at the Barracks in Los Angeles, California. Didal will head to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil for the Oyster Open Street Park Skateboarding set on November 11 to 17. The Bible Reader Society International is celebrating its day of founding in November 1998. As the group turns 21 this year, more and more acts of kindness will be witnessed by Filipinos in various parts of the country. Last weekend, BRED members in Sorsogon visited the jail in Gubat City to begin the month-long occasion. Nina Armilio tells us why.
Distance and bars did not hinder the Bible Readers or BRED Society International from doing an act of kindness to the inmates of Gubat District Jail in Sorsogon Province on November 1st. The jail visit is part of the group's month-long 21st anniversary celebration this November. Through the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, or BJMP, over 50 persons deprived of liberty participated in the day of fun and entertainment. The highlight of the weekend activity was the spiritual lecture on moral recovery. The jail residents listened to Bible verses which can guide them in turning a new leaf.
Sapagkat tayo'y kanyang gawa, na nilalang kay Kristo Jesus para sa mabubuting gawa.
Some BRED members, even jail officials, performed song and dance numbers. The non-profit, non-sectarian youth group also gave away free grocery items and rendered free haircut. Police Lieutenant Colonel Attorney Edwin Engay, the chief of PNP Region 5's Regional Legal Service, offered free legal consultation. A total of 48 inmates and 7 jail officials availed of the group's various free services.
Congratulations sa pagsapit ng 21st anniversary ng BRED Society. Mabuhay ang BRED Society.
Watch out for more exciting events from the Bible Reader Society International this month as its members spread goodness and love in various parts of the country. Nina Armilio, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
And to finally complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The camp of Vice President Leni Robredo, is still mum on whether she will accept or decline the position offered by President Rodrigo Duterte for the government's campaign against illegal drugs. Live from the office of the Vice President, Vincent Arboleda will tell us why live. Yes, Vincent, good evening.
Good evening, William. The camp of Vice President Leni Robredo is somehow surprised after receiving information that President Rodrigo Duterte has appointed the country's second top leader to a post of co-chair to an interagency instead of a drug czar, as previously declared. Spokesperson to the Vice President, Barry Gutierrez, confirms they have received the letter of appointment coming from the Office of Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea. But as to whether the VP will accept the position, Gutierrez says they will not comment on that issue at the moment.
Paano naman namin i-take seriously itong ganitong klaseng offer kung yung mismong magiging co-chair niya sa isang komite ay kahapon lang, kalaruhin natin, kahapon lang yun, nagpahayag na kaagad na hindi daw siya naniniwala dun sa magiging co-chair niya.
Gutierrez even points out that the position of a co-chair in the Interagency Committee on Anti-Illegal Drugs holds no power and does not even exist.
Even with this appointment, clearly it's still the president that will actually be calling the shots. Walang power itong co-chair ng ICAD, even granting that position will be created sometime in the future. Dahil ngayon hindi siya nag-exist.
Robredo's camp said the chairman of the ICAD has no power over the agencies involved in the committee and only has the mandate to implement policies. Despite this, Gutierrez says the vice president is serious with the issue on illegal drugs. Tomorrow, Vice President Leni Robredo is set to issue a letter or a proposal to Malacanang to state her stand on where the direction of the government's anti-drug campaign should go to. That's the latest news. Back to you, William.
Yes, thank you very much, Vincent Arboleda, reporting live from the office of the Vice President. An NPA fighter says he could not believe the military would save him after a gunfight in Agusan del Norte. He adds that he wants to return to the government's fold. Dante Amento tells us why.
Former New People's Army or NPA combatant Elias Kent did not expect the members of the 29th Infantry Battalion in San Isidro, Santiago, Agusan del Norte would be instrumental. He is still alive now. After Kent's group encountered the military on November 2, he was captured because he was not able to walk away. He sustained 3 gunshot wounds during the gunfight. He shared that after he surrendered, he even thought the military would not allow him to leave. To his surprise, the soldiers brought him to a nearby hospital. The military even told him not to give up and try to survive, he said. After this experience, Elias Kent has proved to himself they are just being fooled by the rebel group. Kent has been an NPA member for 2 years. He was recruited when he was just 16 years old. The NPA fighter is now recovering in the hospital.
Ang una nating ginagawa ngayon is makarecover muna siya. Kasi nga, no, very traumatic ang experience niya na according sa kanya, natatakot lang siya mag-surrender.
Kent says he wants to go back to the government's fold and turn a new leaf for his family. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue.
Not only the leaders of the Association of Southeast Asian Nation or ASEAN member states played an important role in the 2019 summit, even persons with disabilities and special needs took part in the grand event. RK Llorca tells us why.
Leave no one behind. This is part of the advocacy of the 35th ASEAN Summit with the goal to contribute to the marginalized groups like the persons with disability and autism. Diplomats, ASEAN state leaders, and dialogue partners took part in the 35th ASEAN Summit and related meetings. Even these very important disabled persons played an important role in the historical regional summit. The group was able to participate through the Asia-Pacific Development Center or APDC, a foundation that gives opportunity to PWDs and people with autism aged 17 to 65 to get jobs. According to the APDC manager, after 80 to 100 days of training, at least 80% of the trainees showed competency in the field of work they want to get into. He added that they are also trustworthy and capable of doing their jobs.
Person with autism very sharp on sailing. Sharp, and they can remember everyone who
who buy. And the person with debt, very patient. They can work 24 hours by not rest. They just working and they honestly not stolen, not fighting.
The APDC's partnership with the United Nations in ASEAN 2019 shows their strong support on the advocacy to give fair opportunity to all so that no one will be left behind. RK Yorka, UNTV News and Rescue, Bangkok, Thailand.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Kath, good evening.
Good evening, William. The president of China expressed his support for the chief executive of Hong Kong, who has been harshly criticized by the pro-democracy protesters that have been taking to the streets of the semi-autonomous region over the last few months. Xi Jinping met with Carrie Lam on Monday in Shanghai, where they had come to attend the second China International Import Expo. He voiced the central government's high degree of trust in Lam and full acknowledgement of her work and that of her team. The president also expressed hope that the people of Hong Kong would implement the principle of one country, two systems, and that the island's basic law, as well as strive to safeguard its prosperity and stability. A federal appeals court ruled Monday that the accounting firm that works for President Donald Trump must release his tax returns to New York State authorities investigating him, but an attorney for the chief executive said the decision would be appealed to the Supreme Court. On October 7, a federal judge in New York rejected a lawsuit filed by Trump in an attempt to avoid having to turn over his tax returns after the Manhattan District Attorney's Office sought to obtain the documents as part of an investigation into hush money payments made during the 2016 campaign. Trump's attorneys argued that the tax returns did not have to be released, citing presidential immunity. The three-judge appeals panel, however, ruled on Monday that prosecutors had requested the tax returns and other documents from Mazars USA and not the president's, and ordered the accounting firm to comply with a subpoena issued by the DA's office. Trump contends that the investigation by the DA's office is politically motivated and has fought efforts by prosecutors to obtain his tax returns. Thousands of Chileans occupied the capital's Plaza Italia Square on Monday for an 18th day of demonstrations demanding structural change to address stark economic inequality. The Super Monday mobilization, which followed a quiet weekend, was convened by the Social Unity Roundtable, a coalition of some 70 labor unions and grassroots organizations. The movement, which brought 1.2 million people, more than 5% of Chile's population, into the center of Santiago on October 25th, is characterized by its disenchantment with politicians and the institutions of government. In line with that distrust, hundreds congregated earlier Monday outside Congress to reject measures put forward by right-wing President Sebastián Piñera to address the causes of popular discontent. Lawmakers are scheduled to debate a government proposal to boost retirement pensions, but within the existing framework of the AFP system of private pensions fund administrators that sees some retirees receive as little as $200 a month. And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Kath Dumaraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. There are only 2 game days left before the League of Public Servants Season 8 second round elimination kicks off. The hard court battles are becoming fiercer and more action-packed as the teams improve their standings. 6 teams will face off tomorrow in Pasig City for another triple header. Bernard Dadis has more details in this report.
Season 7 third placer NHA Builders will try to stop the winning streak of rookie team DNR Warriors as the two sides clash tomorrow, November 6, 4 p.m. in Pasig City Sports Center. Breaking the Warriors' momentum is a priority for the Builders as the first round elimination nears its end.
Kailangan namin magkaroon ng intensity, kailangan namin pumokus sa laro kasi kailangan namin manalo eh.
Out of their 4 games so far in this round, the Builders lost only to Malacanang PSC Camao. The DNR, on the other hand, with 4 wins and no defeat, sitting on Group B's top spot, aims to tie with defending champion AFP-Gabalier's record on Group A after the Soldiers sweep all teams on its bracket.
Well, I just want the players to be confident in themselves, kasi alam ko noon may talent sila. Yung challenge lang namin is how to play together.
Meanwhile, the Agriculture Food Masters with a 3-1 win-loss record will battle SSS Kabalikat in the second game at 5:30 p.m. Season 5 champion PNP Responders will give it their best shot as they challenge the GSIS Furies in the third game, 7 p.m. The PNP Hoopsters need to win their last 2 games, tomorrow against the GSIS and on November 17 against the Judiciary Magis to advance to the second round elimination. Bernard Daddies, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Representatives from different countries showcased their puppetry skills in Bangkok, Thailand. One of them is a puppet master from the Philippines. Kath Dumaraos has this report.
Puppet troupes from 13 countries presented entertaining puppet shows at the Siam Paragon World Fascinating Puppets held at Siam Paragon, Bangkok, Thailand. Famous Filipino puppeteer Juan Lunaria, together with his family, represented the Philippines and showcased the Lunaria Marionette Show.
Napaka-entertaining. Sa lahat yata ng nag-perform doon, siya yung pinaka-entertaining sa lahat.
Nare-represent talaga kung gaano ka world-class ang performance at mga performers natin na galing sa Pinas.
The Filipino puppet master says puppetry is significant in his family's life.
3, low, quiz, faster, again, 3, low, quiz, internal quiz.
Yung aking bunsong anak si Eli, may ADHD siya, nakatulong po sa kanya yung puppetry. So, both cultural and medical, nakakatulong po ang puppetry sa atin. At nagagamit din po ang puppetry para maipakita natin yung kultura natin.
The Siam Paragon World Fascinating Puppets is part of the celebration of the ASEAN Culture Year 2019 to welcome the leaders and delegates of the 35th ASEAN Summit that concluded yesterday. The event, which also included workshops and exhibits from ASEAN and other countries, ran from October 31st to November 3rd. Kat Tumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue, Bangkok, Thailand.
One of the grand final entries in a Song of Praise music festival this year got her inspiration to craft her song from the struggles her husband experiences. She also wants to put across an important message to those who will listen to her musical masterpiece. Nina Armilio has more details.
Don't lose hope. Despite failure, continue fighting. Lyrics and melody of Don't Give Up, to be interpreted by Jinky Vidal on asoptv.com/poll and youtube.com/asoptv. If this is the song you want to win the People's Choice Award among the 12 ASOP finalists, vote for it through online voting and power viewing. See you on November 10, 7 p.m. at the New Frontier Theater for the ASOP Music Festival Year 8 Grand Finals.
Jesus stands to lift you up, so be strong and don't give up.
Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news this November 5th, 2019. On behalf of Alex Baltazar and Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant soundbites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
I
challenge Vice President Lenny to accept the job. Malay mo ma'am, kaya mo yan at nang makita mo po kung ano yung trabaho ng isang presidente, subukan mo up to the last day of your term. Sa term rin po ni Pangulo up to June 30 of 2022. Tingnan natin kung makakatulog ka pa.
Dapat tanggapin ni Vice President Lenny yan para yung mga siya at saka yung mga advices niya, once they start researching and studying the issue, they will realize that hindi pwedeng itigil ang war on drugs. It is a never-ending struggle.
Paano naman namin i-take seriously itong ganitong klaseng offer kung yung mismong magiging co-chair niya sa isang komite ay kahapon lang, kalaruhin natin, kahapon lang yun, nagpahayag na kaagad na hindi daw siya naniniwala dun sa magiging co-chair niya.
Malaking bagay po ito sa decongestion ng Metro Manila kasi lahat po ng trucks na galing sa port hindi na kailangan dumaan sa major thoroughfares ng Metro Manila. Dito na sila aakyat sa may R10 at pwede na silang dumiretso sa NLEX or SLEX.
Walang underserving, no? Lahat nabibigyan para hindi nagugutom yung mga tao. So I don't believe may humanitarian crisis.